all my heart stood on the end as the next giant fist whistled past me. I couldn't allow those things to touch me. A firm brush with that concentrated force of destruction would shatter my very being, bringing my life to a swift end. Yeah, probably, yeah. I felt as if I had dodged a cannonball. After passing by me, it crashed in the crimson stone pavement, causing a blast of air that swept me off my feet. I had completely lost my sense of all direction, unable to tell up from down, left from right. The bastard in question, however, didn't follow up with a subsequent acquaint. He merely watched me struggle back onto my feet, wearing me with such pressure it made breathing itself a toil. This had been going on for a while now. He would stop and watch me after every missed attack, never trying to pursue. His composed attitude sent shivers down my spine. All the bastard stuff I fought so far would go mental once the battle started. Some cackled like madmen, others surrendered themselves to fury, while the third group would sheer joy in carnage. All in all, it had always been a spectacle of bowling emotions. But this guy was different. In battles with Wilhelm and the others felt like flashy gun battles. Fighting this guy was a straight-up Russian roulette. My biggest foe was the pressure that increased with each of his subsequent punches, forcing me further and further into a mental corner. I wasn't fighting a wild beast, but a hunter both experienced and meticulous in his craft. The whole giant arena now felt oddly small. By the way, this is a new episode, isn't it? Or am I not correct? I don't remember. Well, the problem of recording the next day. Never mind, we'll see about it. No, it's not a new episode, I think we continue. And I'm not even recording next day, day after day. After day. Next day after day. Day after tomorrow. Something like that. Alright, my blood would not come to a boil, my emotions would not erupt. I was several times faster than the guy, yet all I could feel was a sensation of steadily increasing dread. Okay, that's definitely continuation. I mean, I would see the freaking new chapter thing. And that other thing. For some reason, I unconsciously accepted those words. No, I couldn't give in. I shouldn't have noticed him. I had to refute the bastard and do something to dispel this terrible pressure waving down on me. But then... he threw another punch, a simple attack that would be easy to dodge in a calm and collected state, yet the knowledge it would instantly end my life the moment it touched me only served to shackle my mind. Besides, when the hell did I know this? I once saw him fell kind with a single punch. Yet this conviction, this terror, seemed to stem from something entirely different. I managed to slip out of the trajectory of his swing by the skin of my teeth, but the fierce gust left by his knife swept me off my feet again. This one was too close. His fist never connected, yet the condensed air pressure around it was strong enough to shatter a number of my ribs. The somber knight began to advance towards me with slow steps once I'd collapsed to my knees. His attacks lacked any and all passion. It felt more like I was fighting a tank.
1939年12月24日カール・クラフトとラインハルト・ハイドリヒのもと今の黒煙卓が生まれたのはその時だ。
Morgan Dameru, the epoch of Twilight. The obsidian table was forged in the crucible of World War II.
最も早く奴ら二人に下ったのはベイとシュライバー。それに若干遅れる形でザミエル、マレウス、クリストフ、バビロン。 そしてバルキュリア。初期は9人、残りは4人だ。
Another first fest flew my way. I dodged the tremendous uppercut, it forced shattering the stones at Machina's feet, with an over-exaggerated panic flip. And as before, he did not pursue.
シ
However,
ピーネは収容所の慰問官として当店コープの愛家に通じていたクリストフが招き寄せ、
he lungily raised his right hand and caught me in the air, almost as if by
ト
accident.
バルカインはハウスホーファーの命を逆手に取ったザミエルが日本より呼び寄せた。
And then he tossed me up in the sky like I was a ragdoll.
残るは2人。
I couldn't move in the air as my body reached the highest point it could. It began to descend, plummeting straight to the fists of the somber night.
だが増年金とはすでにその時点から予約席だ。完全な空席。候補もなく予定もなく何者が入るかもわからぬ席がそれはどのように埋めたと思う？
He launched another fist with a tremendous roar of wind following in his wake. There was no way I could dodge it. I crossed my arms to soften the blow, but that felt about as useful as a piece of leather against a tongue. The fist exploded in my chest like a missile, sending me flying all the way to the spectator seats. My breathing, the beating of my heart, everything inside me stopped. I could feel my flesh, bones, and very soul shatter and crumble. His Deus Ex Machina would forcefully and mercilessly bring an end to all things under the sun, regardless of their strength, history, or nature. And I got hit by it.
立て。
Yet he ordered me to stand and continue the
お
fight.
前がいるその場所はかつて奴らが俺たちを見下ろしていた場所だ。故に今度は俺が命令する。戦え。
Those were hardly words that an eternal slave to strife would utter to the audience above him, for they rang with bitterness and raw
こ
animosity.
こは毒壺。
He made his declaration in a voice deep and hoarse, seemingly tortured by an aeon's worth of anguish.
最後の一人になるまで強要された奴隷たちの墓場。
He fixed his hollow, fish-like gaze upon me, a pair of eyes in heavy contrast with the ground pressure raging about him.
誉れのかけらも存在しない。腐りきったバルハラだ。
Such was the nature of his gauntlet of malice. In the end, even the last survivor would be killed and turned to an instrument of bane. I couldn't believe they actually used live people for this madness. I unconsciously voiced the question while I still felt my body crumbling away like a broken piece of glass. Nonetheless,
なぜそんなことをしなければならない。
I had to know, I couldn't acknowledge the very notion of such a disgusting and unjust place existing in the history of the world.
奴のお箱だ。いないのならば作ればいい。
So they organized all that just to fill one empty seat at their table.
随分ドライツェーンの中央、そして天秤だ。物語を左右するもの、なんとなれば終わらせることさえできるもの。そうして渇望は利用される。今のお前のように誰もが思ったことだろう。もう嫌だ。やめてくれ。早くこんなことは終わらせてくれ。1000人が、万人が、全く同じ思いを抱いて殺し合う。国の栄華も、家族の無事も、友や女の幸せも、寄るべき大義も何もない。納得のできぬ死に場所にバルハラなど降りてこない。 真実戦場で追われたのだと確信できればまだしも幸せだったろう。だがここは何だ。
A tragic scene of carnage with no glory or even a semblance of meaning to it. A prison of eternal kinslaying that serve only to tarnish the honor of a true soldier.
そうした血が魂が何万も集まり錬成される。核はさらに分けられてより代となるものに込められる。俺はとある鋼鉄の中に、そしてお前は。
His dark eyes pierced me, reflecting pity, compassion, even a sense of camaraderie. Following a brief pause, he heaved a long sigh of pure
カ
resentment.
ール・クラフトの血が満ちたフラスコの中だ。
His words hit me harder than any of his
俺
fists.
はお前の当て馬だよ、兄弟。
I realized what he meant. The gauntlet of malice was not yet over. Originally, the last one standing was to be turned into the catalyst for Karl Kraft's sorcery. However, he instead decided to split the survivor into two, organizing one final battle. Pitting two identical existences against each other, he would find the one that had truly been the strongest.
お前が俺に勝てたんだ
Probably putting what whatever.
ハイドリヒの餌としてふさわしい。だが俺が勝てばどうなる。
The nameless somber knight squeezed his iron fist and hollered into the sky, as trying to shatter even that canopy with his voice.
俺はその時こそ本当に死ねる。この毒壺を終わりにできる。
バカな。
I have no idea who came forward with that promise, but what made him believe in it with such blind fervor? He had no guarantees it was the
ど
truth.
うでもいい。俺はただ一刻も早く終わりたいだけだ。
Machina began his advance towards me with steps that could make the very ground beneath him tremble. Yet I couldn't move. At this rate, all I'd do was watch him finish me
あ
off.
るいはお前が勝っても結果は同じかもしれんがな。だがハイドリヒを倒さぬ限り俺は永遠に解放されない。クラフトの口約束など信じるに値せぬ。はあ、確かにそうだろう。だが俺がここを出るためにやれることは他にない。他力など当てにせん。二度と蘇りたいとも思わない。であればこの戦いを最後に幕を引くと強く渇望するだけだろう。俺が本当に解放されるかお前を殺してみなければわからんが、少なくともお前がハイドリヒを倒すよりは確率的にありえよ。そして
The somber knight kicked off the ground and leapt into the air, his fist aimed straight at my
血に
head.
ついた習性は拭い去れん。ここにいる者は誰であれ殺したくなる。お前もそうだろう、兄弟。なぜなら過去にもここで俺たちは殺し合った。
I searched my muscles to the limit and jerked my unmoving body out of the way. Unable to control myself any further, I rolled down the stairs. I crashed into a stone pavement, each of its crimson stains screaming of decades of torment. Could this really have belonged to the two of us? I...
立て！お前がこの程度で死ぬはずなどない。俺はまだ渇望を見せていないぞ。俺と別れたお前の祈りを示してみろ。俺と同じではないと知っている。
My craving? My rule? The kind of world I most desired? Indeed, we were different. We both wielded weapons that delivered death with a single strike, yet I was nowhere near as obsessed with the end as Nigredo. I craved a standstill, not the end.
それともクラフトの渇望に毒されたか。
違う。
I retorted out of reflex, unable to even grasp what he had meant.
一緒にするんじゃねえ。
I was neither like that sleazy son of a bitch, nor like this depressing clown. One was an evil, hypocritical motherfucker that went on and on about foreknowledge and recurrence like a broken record. The other was a damn loser who could only whine about wanting someone to put him out of his misery, running away from a challenge like a total pussy.
俺は違う。
These assholes were the last ones
や
I...
りたいだけだ。
Even if I had to brave this tempest of madness, this battleground surgery, this wretched theater of carnage, I would still wish to return as many times as possible. To those days of warmth and bliss. I'd given up. It wasn't out of my reach yet. I didn't just bend over and surrender like this piece of shit. And so...
繰り返してやるよ。何度でも。
Beyond this obstacle lay the happiness I wanted. So all I had to do was kick it out my way.
違うな。ここで終わるんだ。
Death upon this rotten Valhalla, if such was his desire.
だったら終わるのを止めてやるよ。でないと俺が乗り越えられないだろうがよ。
I focused the entirety of my consciousness on my right arm. Whatever that blocked the connection between me and Mari seemed to have shattered with Machina's previous punch, and I could once again synchronize with her. I would wholly flow the Deus Ex Machina that had been consuming me from the inside. And even if I couldn't stop it completely, I could at least slow it. After all, he landed his punch while still in the state of formation. His craving had yet to take the concrete shape of a creation figment. If I wanted a means to delay the closing of my figurative curtains for even a few minutes, I could use the time to slaughter the bastard. Needless to say, his magical dex, Eus Mumbo Jumbo, ceased to work the moment he stopped breathing.
想像。
Time itself began to slow as my chant filled the air. The time had come to get serious. Not that I thought about it, all of my comrades stuck in this castle, beside myself, were women. I couldn't be the only one to fail. I had to show them what men were made of.
ああ、そうだ。その目だよ。
The whole place trembled as Machina landed back in the arena, once again fixing his gaze. One that could shatter stones with a glance upon me.
ここで俺が殺した者の中に間違いなくお前がいたと実感できる。お前の子がはそいつのものだ。
知らないな。
I'd remember my past lives, and hell, I wasn't gonna trust the words of some decrepit maniac anyway. I was me, Ren Fuji, and no one else.
俺の子がはさて一体誰だったやらもはやなすらわからんが何にせよこういうことだ。お前のような人種は俺に勝てん。過去がそれを証明している。
お前バカか。
The guy was so off the deep end, I even lost the will to
算
laugh.
数じゃないんだ。100回やっても答えは全部同じだなんてんなことあるわけないんだよ。
The champion of Hydra let out a stifled laugh that echoed like the rumbling of the earth. Being tinged with amusement and lamentation in equal measure, this was the first I'd seen him smile, and honestly, it fit him quite well. At the very least, it bet an emotionless mark with the eyes of a dead
繰
fish.
り返すのが好きな男が矛盾したことを言う。
それはそれ、これはこれだ。
I could be quiet as Buffist, all things considered.
一定に言えば、まずい飯はもう二度と食わないし、うまい飯は何度食ってもうまいってこと。
I wasn't morose enough to start detesting the very concept of eating just because I had a up running to something disgusting a few times.
お前と違って、そこら辺アバウトにしてないと人生積むぞ。
面白い。
Maki took a step forward. His iron fist creaked. For the first time, he assumed an actual combat stance.
本音を言えば決めかねていた。今のお前も今の俺もまだ完全な状態ではない。第8が開く前に勝負を決していいものかと。それが最後の聖戦と言えるのかと。
You know, Makina, I really hate being basically, in my case, I hate when someone is telling me to speed up something, but dude, you could really speak faster.
だがよし、その魂英雄と認めよう。お前との戦いならば時と場所を選ばず栄光を得られるに違いない。そして何よりもはやこれ以上は己を御せ。兄弟、俺に唯一無二の終焉をくれ。
どいつもこいつもマジで本当に。
One asked me to show them the unknown, another to kill them, the third to entertain them. The hell did they think I was a fucking genie? But at this point, well, fuck it.
だきゃ行かせてやるよ。かかってこい。
He was a battalion commander of the Obsidian Table. I already had a chance to experience the magnitude of his power with my own skin. I couldn't even defeat Schreiber, with Sakura and Shiro supporting me. Could I truly do something about this guy on my own? I didn't know, but I had no other choice. I could no longer turn back. The somber anchor leapt towards me. Sting my heart, I lunged at him as well, ready to meet his deadly fist of iron in battle. And at the same time,
ここでお前を始末すれば面倒を減らせるってことなんだな。
Shiro pointed his gun at Mercurius, who remained seated in his seat as calm as ever. They were not told or shown anything concrete, but both Shiro and Kasumi could tell what was going on before even fully realizing it. It might have been the effect of the skeletons emerging from the walls, or something else entirely, but details did not matter to the two now.
まだ美味しい役が残ってて嬉しいぜ。お前さん随分といい性格してるみてえだし、ここでほっとく手はねえな。とまあ、本来なら言うとこなんだろうけどよ。
Shiro gave his gun a few twirls before Balls holstering it.
こんなもんじゃ意味ねえか。さて、一体どうするかね。
In truth, their position was far from optimal. Shiro might have been able to learn something, provided he could get Kasumi free and not get in his way, but leaving the castle seemed impossible at this point. And even if it wasn't, it felt unlikely that the Obsidian Shade would allow such a thing. Therefore, Shiro gave Kasumi a meaningful glance. She knew what it implied. Oh. Well, too bad I don't know. So, Kasumi, what did he mean by that? Tell me, because I really have no idea. I mean, he's crazy a little bit, so... It could be anything. Anyway, I need to connect that quickly. Oh, come on, plug in. Alright. So what do you mean alright? I don't know what this is about. She gave a brief nod, still confused about the myriad things. She hated being treated as an outsider and did not want to remain a burden. Her wish to save everyone was just as fierce as anyone else's. In case it was all a matter of timing, she had to cause an aberration during the climax of the 3 battles currently being waged in castle, and then...
やめておきたまえ。 自殺などしたところで意味などない。
Kasumi realized she'd been read like an open book, but she no longer cared.
私がいないと困るんでしょ。だったらせめて他のみんなは逃がしてあげて、そうしてくれなきゃ絶対言うことなんか聞いてあげない。
She had no idea what sort of being she'd come back as upon being resurrected, but she couldn't just give
あ
up.
なたの仕事めちゃくちゃ増やしてやるんだから。
You realize there's also a Himura who couldn't take your place without troubles? Right? She would kill herself as many times as needed, as long as she continued that the pentachroma would remain tainted forever.
それにレイや桜井さんが一度でも勝てたなら。
As long as she continued to die, there was still hope.
私が君にかかずり合っている間、他の者は復活できず、その隙を縫って撃破かね。明暗と言ってあげたいが意味はないな。なぜなら君が死んだところで、私は何もする気などない。
Kasumi was rendered speechless. What was that supposed to
ク
mean?
リストフという男の本質を考えてみたまえ。君らは何か誤解をしている。
He did not wish for the resurrection of Reinhard Heydrich. In other words,
核の移植などあれにはできん。
the spot of Viriditas never belonged to Kasumi. There had only ever been one Sonnenkind.
だったら
The role was still Rhea Himura's, the girl who was absent from this place.
城につながる参道を塞ぎ、スワスチカが選ぶ増年金との優先順位を狂わせる。彼がやったのはそういうことだ。演出は派手なほどいい。獣殿を盲信しているザミエルに彼の玉体を有する己ならば移植も可能であると見せかける。なるほど、なかなかに悪くはないが、しかし甘いな。彼女はそこまでめでたい頭の持ち主ではない。クリストフが倒れた時に獣殿は出陣する。その時点で君らの陣営が全滅でもしていれば別だがね。駒が残っていれば脚本は続行される。まあ少々詫びねばならぬ事態も生じたので、こうして私が出張る羽目になったのは宦官の至りだが。
See, Machina, learn from this guy. He speaks pretty fast. Shrugging, Mercury's made an embarrassed smile. He addressed Kasumi, who was by now shaking like a leaf, in a gentle, almost affectionate tone.
何にせよ、無駄なことはやめたまえ。君は獣のレギオンを流出させうる器ではない。せいぜいかの海から一滴二滴。そのあたりが関の山だ。まあもっともそれをもって蘇生はなったと納得するなら、クリストフにとっては御の字だったのだろうがな。
Citrinitas and the false Viriditas, that was the most the two could achieve. With Nigred, Albert and Rubedo in the mix, the quality of the resurrection might have been made manifest, but without Viriditas, the Devil's Castle would simply not emanate into the physical realm. The Ave swastika would stop functioning as soon as the ceremony ended, and the Battalion of the Free would be plunged back into the castle. That was most likely the outcome Valeriatriv had been hoping for.
よって今君にできることがあるとすれば発想の転換を伴うが、さてそもそもそういう局面までいけるかどうか。何にせよ蘇生の妨害など考えているようでは正当に遠い。ここは死にたがりに優しくない世界なのだよ。考えたまえ。
Easy for you to say when it comes to Kasumi.
なぜなら君が死ねば本来のスイカに参道が復活する。それは君らにとって真実のチェックメイト、いわゆる絶望というやつではないかな。
私は
Kasumi still had trouble understanding the situation. Obviously, after all, until a few days ago, she was but an average teenager with not much else to worry about other than schoolwork, which made the comprehension of circumstances so vastly beyond the scope of her usual everyday that much more difficult a task.
私は
Kasumi cursed herself for being so slow on the uptake, more so than she'd ever done in her life. She had no idea what to say. In fact, she still vaguely entertained the notion that this might just be a dream.
バカからかって遊んでんなよ。てめえの言うことは一っかけらも信用できねえ。
And so, not even the uncharacteristically gentle touch of Shiro patting her on the head could dispel the feeling of frustration Kasumi felt towards her own pathetic
な
self.
らば私についてくるかね。
The man's words once again left Kasumi in the
弾
dark.
丸は昔からの数少ない私の趣味だ。せっかくの戦場、君らも見物していくといい。どうするね。
ああ、いいぜ別に。
Shiro made a split-second decision. He had no idea what the obsidian man had been thinking, but it didn't sound like a particularly bad invitation. He might get a chance to kill him while he was distracted by the battle. Not to
君
mention,
の基地感が消えればよいと私は思うよ。
Mercury stood up, motioning for the two to follow. Shiro had no idea how the man could have known about his condition or what he had been planning to, but he figured following him might hold the key to breaking through this standstill, or better yet, lead to a complete
行く
turnabout.
ぞ、バカスミ。
Three battles lit up vividly in Kasumi's mind as she was pulled forward by Shiro. Kei challenging Reinhardt. Eleanor facing Beatrice. And Ren clashing against Machina. Was she truly the only useless one here?
嫌だ。
She will do something stupid, I bet. She couldn't stand the idea. She too could. Yeah, she will do something stupid. She will. Again. The blade of lightning got up the crimson nightness. At long last, her steel found her foe. Patrice finally caught up to her elusive superior, who up till now had practically been dancing atop the clouds above her. Evoking her creation figment turned Beatrice into shimmering flashes of light. No ordinary attack could possibly strike her down. Turning herself into lightning incarnate, she penetrated the other scorching fires, piercing violently through her tempests of bullets. With the clear sensation of her blade, runic flares still lingering on her fingers, Beatrice turned to face her adversary from the edge of the hall. Eleanor traced her fingers along the cut on her cheek. She then gave a thoughtful look to the light on her glove before finally narrowing her eyes in subdued admiration.
見事だ。貴様で二人目だ。
Trevor was the only one who still managed to wound Eleanor after she joined the obsidian
これ
table.
をもって英雄の資格ありとハイドリヒ教に言上しよう。どうした誇れ。大した戦果だ。
冗談。きついですよ。
Beatrice aimed for the neck, and mere slice on the cheek wouldn't even kill a newborn baby. Notice, one could only command Beatrice's feet. The two belonged to the same breed. Both of them materialized their Achner brass weapon to be wielded, a standard basic approach. Carlcraft sorcery allowed for the commanding of thousands upon thousands of souls, turning them into one's weapon. Their faithful fixation on the basic application of these powers stood testament to Eleanor and Beatrice's talents as leaders of their respective armies. Their style, therefore, had no clear strengths or weaknesses. In exchange for not excelling at defense, offense, speed, or even reality-bending powers, the two exhibited no obvious weaknesses to be exploited. Similar to how heavily armored soldiers had to sacrifice mobility, proving a specific ability would force one to neglect another. Souls served both as their fuel and their armor, albeit a clever use of formations could turn the tide of most battles regardless of how equal the two sides may be. As the spearhead, crane, swing, crescent moon, and fish formations had their advantages and disadvantages, so were fusion, expansion, and special types of alien cards significantly affected by how one deployed them, and were mostly confined to a single strategy. Eleanor and Beatrice, however, both specialized in materialization. Both of them could juggle their formations at will. However, in exchange for the ability to spread and manipulate their souls, they remained inferior in terms of pure destructive power compared to those that focused on a single art. A jack of all trades and master of none would be an apt way to put it. That's what, Salka was calling herself. And it wasn't a good idea. Their offensive prose was meager, almost redundant. However,
相変わらず少佐は隙がなさすぎですよ。
polishing each of those proficiencies to their utmost limit, one would practically become omnipotent. If you were to divide 100 soldiers into 5 groups, you would get measly teams of 20. However, if you divided 10,000s, you would end up with 2,000 per group. Trying to exploit an imaginary weakness of such a powerful commander was utterly futile. Reinhard Heydrich belonged to the precise category, and while Eleanor was not quite his equal, she did possess the same aptitude. Therefore, it would have been impossible for someone so far below her in power to march the Crimson Knightness on the battlefield. In other words, the fact that Beatrice, despite her inferior army, managed to hurt Eleanor of Wittenberg, stood as undeniable proof that her capacity as a commander was comparable, if not outright superior, to that of the Crimson Knightness. Having gained the ability to materialize herself at will, Eleanor's body turned resilient as steel. As such, Beatrice's ability to wound her superior bordered on the miraculous. Yet that meager achievement did nothing to satisfy the maiden of war, the one who wished to become lightning itself. Accessing the situation in a form of cold matter, Beatrice merely threw her superior a self-mocking remark.
ここで私が喜んだら、どうせバカ者とか言うんでしょ。
どうも貴様は私を極度の刺激家だとでも思っている節があるが。
Now did she?
そんなことはない。公正かつ冷静に見て評価できるものに評価は惜しまう。辛辣に見えるのはつまらん輩が多すぎるからだ。
自分ですごい俺様宣言してるって分かってますか？
Killing was the trade of a soldier. A blade that ripped no lives was utterly without meaning. A smile crept into Eleanor's lips.
なんとでも言え。それでどうした？もう来んのか
？20 meters separated the two, a perfect range for
言っ
projectiles.
たはずだがな。私に抜かせれば終わるぞと。
今ならこの距離でも抜かせませんよ。
Her speed was now on a whole new level. Apart from excelling in terms of physical prowess, Beatrice managed to seal Eleanor's weapon on the mental level as well. After all,
今の私にあれを使えばこの城がどうなるかは分かりますよね。あなたにそんな選択はできない。
Eleanor had confessed to being unable to harm the divine diesel herself. Her all-scorching crown was sealed in this place.
私はそう簡単に捕まらないから。標的を捉えるまで無限に広がり続ける爆心。あなたの世界は今や諸刃の剣です。これで勝利宣言をするほど思い上がってはいませんが。
With those words, Beatrice's figure vanished into lightning once
これで
again.
勝利宣言をするほど思い上がってはいませんが。
Closing the distance between the two in less than the blink of an eye, she whirled past the side of the Crimson Knightness, her lightning-clad blade biting into
あなた
shoulder.
の切り札はもはや封じられたも同然です。
And a second bite out of her fake on the way back. Beatrice's consecutive slashes pursued Eleanor with such speed her weapon seemed to almost adopt the shape of an ant. None of her attacks could prove fatal, but no longer could the Crimson Knightness dodge them as cleanly as before. Step after step, little by little, the jolts of lightning grew crimson in color, from splashes of fresh blood. Beatrice was indeed cornering her superior. She did not deem it a craven tactic, for the warrior utilizing the terrain to her advantage was but a common sense. Besides, this field was the creation of their Lord Commander. They brought this situation upon themselves.
話の続きをしようか。
Yet Eleanor showed not the slightest hint of anger, despite having suffered the kind of slight that would normally make her fume with
そ
humiliation.
もそもなぜと近頃思う。貴様は一体何を求めて黒煙卓にいたのかと。
それは
Her once postponed question left Eleanor's countenance in a state of surprising
ハイ
tranquility.
ドリヒ教徒であり、貴様も私も打ちのめされ、ゲスタポに引き抜かれたのはさて、一体いつだったか。
Why bring it up now? What would Eleanor be still trying to tell her at this point? Confused by her former superior's actions, Beatrice, still maintaining her magnetic walls of slashes, parted her lips to address the other.
1939年クリスマスイブだっていうのに少佐がまた面倒なことを言い出して私迷惑したんですよ。
別に男と約束があったわけでもあるまい。
それは確かにそうですけど。
Misery wasn't the only thing she recalled from her past. For that was also the day she met Lisa, a woman who made Beatrice feel like she had gained an elder sister.
貴様、覚えているか。あの日のベイとシュライバーは傑作だった。
あれを傑作と言えるほど私はいろいろ捨ててません。
Cleave, slash, thrust, her hands did not rest for a moment, yet her attacks began to once again miss their mark. Urged by incessant pangs of anxiety, Beatrice couldn't help but speak up.
結局何なんですか？
何？至極簡単だよ。始まりは共に巻き込まれたようなものだった。故に戸惑い、恐れ、躊躇した。私も所詮人の子だ。貴様とてそうだろう。しかし、力を得られるなら答えは是だ。あの時代、そして軍卒である我々に、他の選択などありえない。
Their country was in the midst of an era written in blood, and they would have gladly sold their souls to protect their fatherland.
貴様は本来、虫も殺せぬような腰抜けだ。それが部門に生まれ、軍に入り、やがては黒煙卓のバルキュリアと呼ばれるほどのものになる。見事だ。あっぱれな経歴だよ、キルヒアイゼン中尉。誰もが貴様の勇気と覚悟を称えるだろう。ここまでならな。
Eleanor sidestepped Beatrice's steel and escaped through the Valkyrie's open side. The tip of the lightning blade, however, still found Eleanor's hair clip on the way, cutting it in half, thus releasing her crimson locks to dance freely in the air. For some reason, Beatrice could not maintain her pursuit. Eleanor's long crimson hair descended upon her shoulders, resembling a myriad crimson gashes. Despite being a woman herself, Beatrice could not help but be captivated by the beauty of her opponent. Eleanor, however, merely shot her an inquiring glance.
問題はその後だ。キルヒアイゼン。貴様一体何を吸わすしかに願っている。
A spineless fool who could hardly swat a flying without breaking out in fears. A court who spent half a century in a foreign land after the war ended. What could have possibly driven her to participate in the ritual of the swastikas, this ceremony of bloodshed?
戦火に消えた家族の蘇生。もしくは、ついえた国家の再興。大方そんなことであろうと、昔は思っていたのだがな。しかし違う。言ったように、どれだけ腰抜けだろうと貴様は戦士だ。死の何たるか、骨身に染みて分かっているはず。すなわち、立ち上がれぬ者は捨てていけだ。
What was once lost would never return. Only when one stopped looking back could they finally begin to take a step forward. Such was the fundamental principle, the absolute rule of soldiers and the battlefield.
死者蘇生などたわけている。そんなものは戦場を知らぬ輩が抱く甘ったれた願望だ。クリストフ、ブレンナー、そして桜井の小娘のように。所詮奴らは民間のエセ兵士もどきがお似合いだよ。貴様はそういう女ではない。では、私と同じエインフェリアが望みというのか。それも違う。事実今このように、貴様は私を否定している。わからぬ。下せぬよ、キルヒアイゼン。貴様一体、何をなそうとしていたのだ。
Beatrice did not answer right away, but followed a short pause.
確かに私は死んだ人を生き返らせようとまでは思いません。いっぱい死なせたし、いっぱい助けられなかったですからね。悔いはありますが、戦争とはそういうものです。 少佐のおっしゃる通りだと思いますよ。
They might have gained power surpassing that of armies, yet they were by no means omnipotent. In the end, her power clashed with her ideals, for she was the type that could only achieve things through murder.
そう。我々は殺すのが商売だ。死なないようにする術と死なせる術に長けている。生き返らせる術など我ら兵士の領分ではない。
How could someone whose very essence was to kill wish for something as contradictory as the revival of the dead?
そういうことは誰か別の者にやらせておけばいい。私もそしてハイドリヒ卿も厳密には一度たりとも死んでいない。生きながらに死を超えただけだ。そして貴様もそうなるだろう。魂は回帰せず、なおここにあり、エインフェリアとなっていく。ブリュンヒルデは死んだのではなく、ただ眠りの刑に服していただけ。だが、貴様はそれが嫌なのだろう。
And that was why Beatrice denounced Valhalla, why she refused the glory of the Enheiner.
拒絶を好きにすればよいさ。嫌がる部下を引きずり回し、付き合わせるのは慣れている。貴様が泣こうがわめこうが、連れて行くという決定を変える気はない。ただ、そこで最初の疑問だ。そもそもなぜと。
Neither bringing back the dead nor the thought of immortality could entice Beatrice, but then why did she remain with the Obsidian table after the
ま
war?
さか桜井の小娘のように、めでたい誤解をしていたわけでもあるまい。
Born to a family of counts, Beatrice Kirchheisen was a German of the purest blood, just like Eleanor. She couldn't have been blind to the truth behind the warmongering and
およそ
career.
教育と呼ばれるものを受けたことがないだろうベイ。逆に無駄な知識を持ちすぎているマレウス。戦士の魂を理解できないブレンナ。そしてそもそも別の民族である小娘。奴らと貴様は一緒ではなかろう。考えれば考えるほど私は理解できなくなる。
Enthused, the Crimson Knight's eyes urged Beatrice to transfer demanding an explanation.
命令だキルヒアイゼン。貴様が抱いていた望みを言うがいい。ことによれば叶えてやれるかもしれん。それとも惰性か。やることもないのでブレンナーに協力してやろうとでも思っていた。
いいえ。
Beatrice's retort was brief but firm.
私には私の望みがちゃんとありましたよ、少佐。
To this day, she had refused to give
言
up
っ
on
たは
it.
ずです。私には敬愛する人がいると。
She was a bit intimidating, somewhat haughty, and unbelievably idealistic.
その人頭はいいはずなんですけどね。なんていうかバカですね。全てにおいて秀でている人ですが、どうやら致命的な欠点があったようです。
A painfully human Achilles heel, a common weakness so unlike her, yet one tremendously befitting someone of her
恋
constitution.
は盲目。
And Nightness who made a fatal mistake in choosing her
あ
master.
なたは悲しくなるくらい殿方を見る目がありません。
What? What are we talking about right now? This noble end career, defined by perpetual war, perpetual revival, their own destination, the dawn of Ragnarok, warmongers. Eleanor herself found the expression crude, yet that was indeed the nature of immortals, their very existence one woven of battles eternal. And in the end, her heart was never at odds with that reality. She was
綺麗
content.
事は言いません。私も所詮人殺しです。死にたくないから殺してきたし。ええ、黄昏だろうとなんだろうとお付き合いいたしますよ。
As long as she remained
で
herself.
も私気づいちゃいました。いいえ、本当は前から気づいていたくせに目をそらしていたんでしょうね。 盲目はお互い様だったりしますけど、ベルリン崩壊の時ハイドリヒ卿は何をしました？そしてあなたは何を私たちに命令しました？
Suffer defeat tonight, and let the filthy mongrels believe they have upper hand. Murder comrades, a million subhuman slain is but a drop in the ocean compared to a German soul.
私たちが頑張ればみんな助けられたかもしれないとか、子供みたいなことは言いませんよ。
Okay, it is all a matter of quality. Your dearest kinsmen and loved ones will serve as the sweetest of sacrifices. Lives not easily forfeit will, in turn, mature into the most valuable of offerings.
私たちが
Slay your comrades, annihilate them all with love burning in your hearts. Not a single man loyal to the rage must be allowed to survive. Let them be consumed by the sacrificial flames. That order was beyond insane. It defied common sense, contradicted the fundamentals of soldierhood. No genuine warrior, no true protector of the land and its people should have uttered a command like
あ
that.
なたも私も軍人でしょ。
There were indeed many who cared little for their country among the Obsidian Round Table, but they were criminals and witches in the first place. Beatrice and Eleanor were supposed to be different from them, and yet...
あなたの命令であの日のベルリンは地獄でしたよ。
A merciless inferno that swallowed all without distinction. This Valhalla was but a devilish lair erected from the corpses of their former
あ
comrades.
なたまでが落ちた。
Wow, I can really tell I'm after 12 hours or and no nap at all because I'm yawning and yawning. It's annoying. Anyway, not even Eleanor could escape the scorch of hellfire. It turned her into the demon that now stood before Beatrice.
だから私が望んだのは
Uh-huh.
あなたをここから救い出すこと。
Interesting.
ハイドリヒ卿から引き剥がし昔の少佐に戻ってもらうこと。私の願いはそれだけです。
Eleanor had no words to throw back at the grievous resolve of her former comrade. Only the faint crease on her forehead betrayed her bewilderment, through whether it signaled a lack of comprehension or sheer astonishment remained unclear.
なぜ私が貴様に世話などを焼かれなければならん。そもそも貴様の願いとやらは不可能事だ。
Sure.
確かでそんな真似はできん。
No one can decide your life, right?
ええ、それは十分わかっていますよ。
Eleanor von Wittenberg never died. She became an undying career during her lifetime. There was only one way to liberate her.
だからハイドリヒ卿を倒すんです。それもまたスワスチカにかける願いと言っていいはずでしょ。だってあの方はそうしないと出てこないわけですし。11年前シャンバラにドッペルアドラーを呼び寄せたのは私です。全ては彼らと黒煙卓の激突を煽り民間の死者を出さないままスワスチカを完成させるために。私はその混乱に乗じてレイをマレウスを生産杯を可能な限り殺害していく。この城を軍人としてのあなたを汚したグラズヘイムを地に落とす。壮年キッドはまだ幼くサラトゥストラも現れない。あの瞬間あの時期にしか勝機はないと思ったから。
And there was another reason that made her want to put an end to it all at the time.
結局それは失敗しちゃいましたけどね。
But she did not regret it. For she was finally liberated from her days of hatred and
言っ
contrition.
たでしょ、私は追いかける側の人間だと。妹や弟やまあなんていうか気になる若い子たちのことを信じますよ。 私は彼らの道を照らす先行になりたい。あなたを追いかけるダメな部下でありたい。だから今私はこうしてここにいる。血で錆びついたあなたの剣に再び輝きを灯せるように、ここから救うと決めたから。今さら何を言われても聞きませんよ。私が強情なのは知ってますよね。
Beatrice, ever firm and steadfast, declared her goal.
ご理解いただけましたか、少佐。
She posed her question in an almost jovial manner, smiling through tears. Eleanor considered Beatrice for a long while before eventually letting out a sigh. It was a long, deep sigh of affectionate bewilderment, the kind one would express towards the recalcitrant little sister.
軍人のなんたるか。まさかそんなことを言われるとは思わなかった。はあ、そういえば貴様の生まれはベルリンだったな。あの日に私が下した命を今もって許せんと。困るな。どうしたものかこのバカ娘。ハイドリヒ教のレギオンになる方が彼らにとっては幸せだったと。1から10まで解いたところで聞く耳など持つまいし、言い訳をしているようで性にも合わん。そして何よ。
Her eyes like a pair of daggers pierced Beatrice. Eleanor's wry smile contorted in contempt as her pupils lit blazing demonic fervor.
貴様は2つ言ってはならんことを口にした。
Both her figure and its surrounds grew hazy like heat shimmer in the middle of the desert.
一つはハイドリヒ教を倒すなどと分際をわきまえんたわごとを抜かしたこと。
The temperature of the air suddenly rose a dozen or so degrees, with blasts of hot air chaotically swirling within the hall.
そしてもう一つは
Truth be told, it was the other one that disappointed her the most. And that was why she despised women. They all never had but one thing in their silly heads.
よりにもよって恋などと。
A cheap banality wafting at the parade round.
私の忠を侮辱したことだ。
Crimson flames erupted across the room, the final remnants of Eleanor's goodwill. Her wish to put her former comrade out of her misery without much suffering, had melted into nothingness.
その船舶さ、罰を与えねばならん。残念だよ、
Let me sick, oh man.
たとえエインフェリアになる身とはいえ。
Badass, this will be a badass music. Creeping pain and paralyzing dread, Eleanor would carry her both into Beatrice's insult so that she would never dare spout such a nonsense again.
次に会うとすでに貴様は狂っているかもしれん。だがそれもよし。逃さん。どこにも行かせはせん。永遠に私のもとで私の機嫌を取りながら這い回れ。
No thanks.
図星疲れて怒っちゃいましたか。それにさっきも言ったはずです。この城であなたの世界は
くだらんよ。
Eleanor practically spat the word out, vexed by her subordinate's
いつ
ignorance.
まで経っても進歩のない認識の甘いアホめが。貴様一体何を根拠に私の全てを知っているなどと思い上がる。無限に広がり続ける爆心だと。ああ、そんなものも確かにあったな。あれは戦争用の制約に過ぎん。
A large-scale weapon system, a hellish instrument potent enough to devastate entire cities, a weapon of mass destruction. Her creation figment manifested in such a way because that proved more effective for military operations. However, the Wittenbergs were an old lineage of respectable knights. Their honor was earned in duels, one combatant against the other. An explosion capable of expanding without limit was really an art utilized to eradicate cannon fodder. Therefore, in cases where her opponent was a knight like herself,
汗を外してやろう。光栄に思うがいい。これを知るのはハイドリ卑怯しかおらん。
I bet it looks like a blade.
そして実際に見るのは貴様が初めてだ。
The expanding pressure pounded batteries like a hammer. The scent of burning steel and oil at her nostrils, the unforgettable heat wave of the battlefield. It was coming. An artillery of unprecedented destructive power, a cannon so monstrous one could hardly have envisioned it in a sane mind.
でも
So we are not talking about swords. Something was not right here, knowing full well that she could not afford letting her spirit draw her weapon. Patricia's leg nonetheless refused to move.
彼ほど真実に誓いを守った者はなく、彼ほど誠実に契約を守った者もなく、彼ほど純粋に人を愛した者はいない。
And now we are talking about love even for, well, basically we're making fun just a second about it. The irae was noticing Beatrice remembered her superior chanting in the preparation of the infernal cannon during their
だが
battles.
彼ほど全ての誓いと全ての契約、全ての愛を裏切った者もまたいない。何時ろそれが理解できるか。
Was the weapon of mass fury destruction no more than a tool outfitted for the battlefield? Then what in the world could this be?
我を焦がすこの炎が全ての汚れと全ての不浄を払い清める。払いを及ぼし汚れを流し溶かし解放して尊きもの至高の黄金として輝かせよ。
Rebel was the last of the molds to shape the gold's gestalt. She stood closest to the beast, and as the one who revered him the most, she turned herself into a loyal blade that would obliterate any and all impurities threatening her master.
すでに神々の黄昏は始まったゆえに我はこの荘厳なるバルハラを燃やし尽くすものとなる。
As the overwhelmed Beatrice found herself unable to move, for it lasted for no longer than a second or two. However, that was enough for her to be far too late.
ブリア
It left its scabbard, the surge sword, meant to remain suppressed at all costs, but had finally been unsheathed and revealed in all its glory. A microcosm of condensed raging flames that would never allow their prey to escape. Its name was...
ムスペルヘイム・レーバテイン。
a badass sword, I think. The castle walls gave way for molten crust. The two were transported to a land of simmering crimson. Beatrice felt like she'd been transported to a furnace, feeling the heat of matter melting in the flames, turning into vapor, and dispersing into heat waves. No way out, no shelter being taken, despite being a large area that stretched as far as the eye could see. This new landscape filled Beatrice with a tingling sensation of claustrophobia, as if she was stuck in a long yet suffocating tunnel. Indeed, an ant crawling across the rails of subway might have felt just the same way. And so it dawned upon her
方針の中
that she had been swallowed by a 30-meter long barrel being used by 800mm shells used as a runaway, that she was within the jaws of the demon of the Khan, the Dora of a gun.
そうだ。ゆえにわかるな、キルヒアイズ。
So reality, my marble, that there was no escape, that the Khan could not miss the absolute nature of Eleanor's weapon. A bullet that pursued its target? An explosion that expanded without limit? No, it was nothing so frivolous. Beatrice proclaimed herself to be one who chased after others, yet the label fit Eleanor all the same. The hegemony of gold bewitched her, drove her mad. She yearned to burn in its absolute radiance for all eternity. Eleanor had never possessed the concept of fleeing or turning back. She would chase her goal to the ends of the earth and beyond. to burn the beginning cluster of her idol for eternity. Therefore, this place had no exit, no means of escape.
絶対に逃れられぬというのはこういうことだ。逃げ場など最初からどこにも存在しないものを言う。
A microcosm ruled only by scorching fire, hellfire. The world that the crimson nightness imagined lived inside the cannon, burning everything to ashes with incandescent fury. The flawless dominion of Roberta's everlasting fervor. The symbol of her filthy, her oath, and her love.
勝負ありだ。もはやどうにもならん。
A wall of boiling hellfire closed in on batteries from behind Eleanor like a pyroclastic flow in the wake of a freshly erupted volcano. Even the Valkyrie had doubts she could survive this relentless fury. The soul's batteries have all but vanished with the opening of the first swastika. The only soul that would win her now was her own, and even that had begun to show signs of wear. Even those brilliant blades, no matter how sharp, would be useless against a whole army of its own. On its own, to survive a blast from the already drawn sword of heroic god armor should have been and no should be in the wilderness dreams of even the most deluded.
私と戦えば戦うほどに貴様の魂は削られていく。比喩ではなく透けて見えるぞ、キルヒアイゼ。もはや万策尽きたと知れ。手加減などすでにできんが、下手にあがけばそれだけその身は欠けていく。結果より絶望が増すだけだ。受け入れる。定冠して座すがいい。所詮貴様はハイドリヒ教を倒すどころか私すらも超えられん。嫌です。
Yet in the face of that impending calamity, Beatrice remained stalwart and true. Her resolve from must still.
私はあなたを救うんです。
なぜだ。
The Valkyrie's intentions were but an unwelcome nuisance to the crimson nightness. And yet Beatrice stood before her, unyielding. She would risk her life, transcend the death, and sacrifice her soul. A meaningless struggle, one she would garner no praise for.
だって少佐、友達いないじゃないですか。
How she could still spout such nonsense was beyond Eleanor's comprehension.
あなたは強すぎて、厳しすぎて、純粋すぎて悲しすぎる。たった一人愛した人からも道具としてしか見なされず、自分自身の気持ちにさえ気づいていない。誰も近寄れない老下、それを与えたボータン。あなたこそがブリューヒルデだ。
Beatrice knew she no longer had a chance at victory. Leviathan. Leviathan? Whatever. I know the name Leviathan, but Leviathan? I don't know, it doesn't look German, that freaking AE symbol. I don't remember which language it is for. AE. But yeah, there is some symbol AE in some language. Well, never mind. Had been cast. Its flames already having swallowed most of Eleanor's hazy figure. For a swordsman like Beatrice, the only way to fight would mean diving straight into the furnace. Staying at a distance would only delay but not prevent her miss. There was nothing she could do. Any action she took could be futile, and yet...
だからせめて、私くらいは壁を乗り越えてあげないと。
Never give up.
目を覚ましましょうよ、お姫様。その日をあなたに与えた男はろくなもんじゃないんです。
Nice. The words did not anger Eleanor, nor did she take Beatrice's plea as particularly impudent. A smile of thinly veiled bewilderment lingered on her face as she mentally traversed through the memories of her past. She remembered how no amount of discipline would ever make this girl learn when to hold her tongue.
ええ、女同士じゃご不満もあるでしょうけど。
Her lips curling with a fleeting smile, Beatrice lowered her hips and bent forward. Was she seriously contemplating jumping into the flames? To traverse them. Was such thing even possible?
昔、少佐は言いましたよね。銃など向けられても存外に怖くはないと。なるほど、確かに。こんなの全然怖くないです。
readying herself for the lead batteries, abruptly cried out towards the heavens.
カール・クラフト、聞いているのでしょ。約束しなさい。これは騎士の戦いです。魔術師風情がその決着に手を出すことなど許しません。見事私がビッテンブルグ少佐を倒したら
Just until the end of the
あな
battle.
たの汚れた介入を禁じます。ヘッドは
Was it merely a failing of one's senses that it seemed like the entirety of Muspel's flickered in obsidian in response to Valkyrie's harangue? However, at the very next moment... Jawohl, Fräulein Valkyrie! Something that was neither a voice nor a false nor a figment of one's imagination repeated across the fairy prison, making even Rubedo's inferno feel chilly to the skin for a fleeting moment.
あの大少女めが
意外に半眼美意気の人なんですよ。知ってましたか？
And thus she made peace with her fate, realizing that this was as much as she could do.
お願いよかい。力を貸して。あなたの妹を守るためにも、私はここで砕け散っても構わないから。この人だけでも絶対に連れて行くから。
Back to those days of Radiant
一緒に
Bliss.
帰りましょう。ビッテンブルグ少佐。バルキュリアでもザミエルでもなかったあの頃に、きっとそこが私たちのバルハラなんです。
抜かせバカ者。私と未来永劫に黄昏まで億万の戦場をかければいいのだ。
Like in those days when they still shared the same passion and
今
vision.
さら後戻りなどありえん。貴様が来い。
私は死人でできた道なんか照らしたくない。
されことばかりを。
抜かしているのはあなただ。
Flames swallowed the flash of lightning, enveloped the two maidens of war in their embrace. The victor was certain, unless a miracle occurred, the tide of battle was as good as set in stone. Yet what, indeed, was a miracle? Was it not called such because it manifested in precisely situations like this? Reinhardt raised an eyebrow as a slight aberration stirred the air. The girl leaping over so violently towards him had yet to break through the skeletons that emerged from the foot of the throne, let alone hurt or even draw close to the master. A single company, a soul-stranded beast made, the entirety of which contained a legend comprised of millions. And yet that was more than enough to stop the poor girl. Nevertheless, little by little Kay's withdrawal began to slow. She could no longer advance, and a breakthrough was out of the question. However, she had yet to lose her will to fight, despite being cornered by an opponent boasting of immortality. But what of it? It did not mean she stood a chance. Her foolish actions were hardly worthy of admiration. And even if she managed to break through, it would be hardly anything more than a momentary flash of light, on the verge of being swallowed by darkness. And so Reinhardt pondered what approach would ultimately prove to be the most interesting. Should he summon reinforcements to crush the girl in an instant, or would it be more amusing to observe her struggle for a while longer? Reinhardt was not one to relish the act of torturing a maiden so young, but he enjoyed seeing the spark of courage and valor light up in the midst of battle, hence his dilemma, both of which commanded an equal presence in his heart. Although if death was the only result available to the girl, he ought to focus on it, coming up with the most interesting way to orchestrate her demise. Unless there was a third option, that the beast himself could not yet grasp. Let's go with the third. In the midst of pondering such a life of what's yet another aberration stirred within the castle, Walter Gerlitz, the leader of this particular company, soon despairs, having been pierced by Kay's blade, and with his disappearance, other skeletons broke formation, falling apart.
甘く見すぎです。
It only took a moment for Walter to resurrect, but Kay bet everything on the meager span of time. Kay had been on the defensive to make out the leader of the skeleton company. Her plan was to slay him swiftly and use the momentary confusion to assault the general upon the throne. When a small unit had to engage a superior enemy force, speed meant the difference between life and death. However, Although it was certainly that she had been severely underestimated, and Reinhardt had let his guard down, it was also true that the world's opportunity remained immense beyond mortal imagination. Who are you calling from Marseille? Yeah. Why France? A casual trance over the beast materialized a colossal gun behind that drone that seemed like it belonged to on a fighter plane. It directed its aim at Kay, calculating the trajectory of its bullets with such precision. It seemed almost as if the girl had been drawn towards them and not the other way around. An ace pilot in times past known as the Star of Africa, his guard nigh impenetrable, Kay fell back like a shot plane, blood dancing through the air instead of fumes, and was followed by Walter and his troops as they revived. In that moment, Irokane soared to the air, aimed directly at Reinhardt's neck. It was of course hit by the Messerschmitt in an instant, losing its trajectory. Yet, had this result been a mere coincidence or an inevitability? If miracles were real, the world had just witnessed one.
死よ、死の幕引きこそ唯一の救い。
A voice somber as the night reverberated amidst the raging howl of the wind, while a pair of tremendous iron fists maintained their
この
onslaught.
毒に汚れ、蝕まれた心臓が動きを止め、忌まわしき毒も傷も跡形もなく消え去るように。
He began activating his barrier. I knew the danger and that it was in my best interest to interrupt him as soon as possible. Still I chose to leap back at distance instead of observing him from afar. All my sense told me that I should avoid prolonging the fight. After dodging attacks that might as well have been considered an artillery strike, my mind and body were on the verge of complete collapse. If I interrupted him now, all that awaited me was a drawn-out battle of attrition, lasting until I either got hit or fell dead from exhaustion. If this kept up, I stood no chance against him. And so, I would use this moment to bolster my strength to its absolute limit and end the fight right here. A risky choice for sure, but transforming this battle into a bout of quick draw was the only thing I could do to make it not completely hopeless for me.
この開いた傷口。言える。
Whoops, Machina began to change. The core of his being had been trapped within a shell of iron. He had adopted human form for now, but upon revealing his craving he would return to his true shape.
滴り落ちる血の雫を全身に巡る呪詛の毒。
A pair of iron arms, not mere prosthetics, but genuine iron.
武器を取れ。剣を突き刺せ。深く、深く、掴まで通れと。
A beast of iron, human in shape, yet more reminiscent of a tank.
さあ、騎士たちよ。罪人にその苦悩もろともとどめを刺せば、思考の光はおのずからその上に照り輝いて降りるだろう。
Indeed, his soul had been trapped in an iron vessel of terror, and now one could glimpse his true form in the somber night's limbs.
ブリア
Oh shit. Is the only comment.
ボルツンゲサガ
The Wolzunga Saga, a battle of heroes sunk in the mortal realm of Midgard. A story allowed divine predestination as the highest form of glory. It insisted on the beauty of death and acknowledged the need for the curtain to fall. A creation feeling Higmendek hope, pride, and prayed for the end of everything it touched. He had now turned into a sentient avatar of Deus Ex Machina. A vessel of the gods that would put an end to all.
戦いは嫌いか。
I couldn't help but ask. After all, I too was about to launch an attack infused with all of my being.
殺し合いを楽しんだことなど一度もない。
The summer night, my opponent, shared my sentiments.
戦場を誉れとし、男の本懐としてはいても、血に優越する銃声など持ち合わせん。お前もそうだろ、兄弟。 決着は早ければ早いほどいい。つわもの同士であればあるほど、そこに不純物は混ざらんものだ。優越も苦悩も絶望も
焦りも怒りも興奮も
皆すべからく不要であるべし。俺とお前の戦いにそんなものが入り込む余地などない。
A clash of pure, undiluted fighting spirit, our battle required no more, and only beyond it lay the true Valhalla. A prolonged battle did not guarantee glory, if anything, it would only take the beauty of the dance. On that point alone, it seemed to be on the safe mind. We would soon clash, one would stand, the other would fall, there was nothing more to it. Therefore,
俺は負けない。
ではやってみるがいい。
oh, he could bet his ass I would. I'd mob the floor with this suicidal nutcase. As our muscles tensed up, pushed their absolute limit, we both leapt forward. Would my speed exit his, or would his feet find me first? I had to win this no matter what.
死にたくないんだ。
I wanted to live. I'd show him how survival instincts and the attachment to life could elevate one's strength to new heights. I mean, I'd even told this to Sakurai.
お前ら要はおじけづいてるだけのくせに。
A bunch of losers trembling in Reinhardt's shadow.
俺にばっか偉そうなこと言うんじゃねえよ。
And in that moment we both pulled our figurative triggers. My body shot forward like a bullet. I was confident I exceeded him in terms of speed, and if I had a shred of fear left, I would have been able to step within his reach to begin with. I had to keep my eyes peeled, make all my nerves stand on end. Would his blade, or rather fist, come from the right or from left? If I missed his initial motion, my fate would be sealed. What if both sides? And one would need at least a moment to ready their attack, to pour strength into the punch. And that fleeting span of time would prove to be the moment of truth. That was why I chose to observe him while I could, instead of trying to get in the way of Creation Figment's activation.
ジーク入る。
His frame was that of an ideal man, the perfect body of a warrior. No wonder he reminded me of the statue of David the first time I saw him. He was a puppet, artificial being, a machine shaped to perfection. And so he couldn't hide the creaking of his joints, nor the rumbling of his gears.
右。
His iron fist shot at me like a death itself, but I read its trajectory before it could reach me. It carried me no spirit within. No matter how sharp an eye an observer possessed, they would not have been able to discern something their own consciousness refused to acknowledge existing. Under normal circumstances, I would have never been able to dodge it. But no longer was I bound by the limits of mundane
お
humanity.
前の敗因は
I dodged his fist and twisted my body around, throwing my hand forward to deliver him a fatal blow.
そんな体になったことだ。
An artificial man that possessed no blood or flesh. Even though he had mastered the technique of perfectly blank mind, he could not hide the creaking of cogs that would come like bustling a split second before each of his movements. Apparently I had lost to him here in the past, but the fool forgot that we possessed different bodies at the time. My guillotine pierced through the air. Despite being at a distance that would normally prove lethal, the air pressure resulting from scratch and the stoutness of his arm made it impossible for my weapon to reach his neck. But I predicted that much. We both put everything into our attacks, but I wasn't really aiming at his neck. I would cleave his arm off. The blade of my guillotine found his elbow and sliced through it, separating my opponent from his fist of concentrated Deus Ex Machina.
素晴らしい。
Was that him rejoicing at his long-awaited end? Or perhaps
お前ならこれくらいはやってのけると信じていたぞ。
the sound of cogs and gears turning in reverse filled my ears.
高き救いの奇跡よ。
Or you must be fucking kidding me that you have a second Achnanebe.
我が救済者に祝福を。
な
Oh no, his left fist came without warning. Could it be that he too
やはり考えることは似通るらしいな。
thought the very same thing as me? to destroy the opponent's weapon with the first hit before finishing it off with the
お
second.
前の敗因は
I felt like I was staring him to a mirror. Machina, the harbinger of death, even repeated the very same line I uttered moments before.
俺の言葉を信じなかったことだ。
That we both survived the gauntlet of malice. That we were two faces of the same man, forcefully split apart. I would believe it, I would acknowledge it. Even if it happened to be true, I would have kept denying it. And that proved to be my undoing.
明暗を分ける。俺はお前がこうするだろうことを信じていた。
My spirit and backbone, the weapons that pulled me through countless battles, I believed and never doubted that they were essential for my survival. Yet in this fight they proved to be the very reason for my defeat. In the end, his belief in an identical conclusion under staying circumstances overshadowed the trust I had in both my craving and my hope for victory.
最後、お前のつまらん誤解を訂正しよう。
Alright, remember what I choose. Never give up. As the Iron Giant's fist drew closer and closer, carrying absolute and final death, he parted his lips to speak.
俺はハイドリヒを恐れてなどいない。単に奴が相手では、俺の唯一がクズに脱するというだけだ。お前でなくてはならん。お前でなくては、俺の空虚は埋まらない。それもまた当然だろう。なぜならお前こそがただ一人俺の
But then, how would I face my comrades? What would I tell them? That it was my destiny to fall and lose my life to him? No, I could not acknowledge that. I would not lodge such an end. Say here, man. It can't end like this. The man clad in obsidian robe suddenly came to a halt. The two following behind him had no choice but to do the same. They were in a white hall, the walls of which were molded of countless human bones. The whole thing went beyond the comprehension of both Kasumi and Shiro, and while the body of the man was indeed still with them, his mind was not.
君に詫びねばならんな、マルグリット。
You asshole, how dare you do that to her? For he currently occupied the world of Willite, addressing a woman he cherished
以
dearly.
前に言ったことを訂正しよう。あの首飾りは君に不釣り合いであったようだ。
Mary remained silent despite the gentle apology, or rather she could not answer. Her eyes had been closed, her mind deep in sleep. Shimmer lingered there in a cautious state, shackled by the chains of roses to the symbol of her own essence, a guillotine. When Mercury talked about an ill-befitting necklace, this was what he had
マ
meant.
キナとの勝敗など問題ではない。真の基準は彼が君を選ぶか否か。選んでいればこうなることなどなかったろうにな。
An outcome brought about by the wrong choice.
口惜しいが仕方あるまい。60年ではいささか仕込みが浅かったということだろう。君はまたこの黄昏に沈んでいってしまうのだね。
I do not agree to that.
許されよ、マルグリット。私には昔から人の情というものが見えない。
You asshole, don't you dare! The heart of the lover he had prepared specially for her had directed its passion at another. That by itself was of no real significance. He could have still been able to carry through with his plans, as long as that affection was not the unadulterated love for a woman.
単純に今はまだつながりが薄い。ああ、そう考えれば原因はマキナにあるとも言えるかな。情の深さと時間の長さは必ずしも比例せぬとよく言うが、質の面でもまだ足りるまい。君らはお互い未だ唯一無二と言えるような関係でもなかろう。
At least his shadow had yet to reach the level of affection he felt for the girl. And that was no good. It was not enough to bring about an emanation. In short, Mari watched over Mercury swallowing his own failure to
な
silence.
ぜなら法則を破壊するには波動の激突を要する。 それをもって塗り替えなければ意味がなく、今の君らでは不可能だ。所詮自己完結で終わる弓道ではね。包み込む愛は得られん。わかるだろうか、マルグリット。まだ君はそれを知らない。私の盟友のような愛の権化になってほしかったのだが、残念だな。
Mercurius kept saying one incomprehensible thing after another, yet despite it all he seemed to be enjoying himself. Despite the opaque nature of his words, Mari could tell that he was confessing to his failures, to the crumbling of his plans. Yet no matter how hard one looked, it did not appear like he was truly grieving the fact. If Mari had her consciousness about her, she would have doubtlessly said,
変なカリオストロ。
A single word would hardly do the man's myriad facets justice, yet to Mari it sufficed just fine. Mercurius made a troubled smile.
私が奇妙だと思うかね。
ええ。だってあなたは。
He was still expecting something, waiting for it to happen. He claimed that world would see no emanation occur, that his ambitions had ended in failure and defeat, that it was all too so unfortunate, and yet he had been sure of something else. He was still trying to make the girl cause something.
悩ましいな。下世話な例えで恐縮だが、愛と友情、どちらを取るかという選択に私は今立たされているよ。カール・クラフトとしての私は獣殿との盟約に準じなければならないが、アレッサンドロ・カリオストロとしての私は君こそ女神の器だと信じている。彼の波動のみが流出するような事態になっては愛を失い、かといって大っぴらに止めては友情を失うという二律背反。ダメな男のざれ言だと笑ってくれたまえよ、マルグリット。もしも仮にの話だが、私がどちらも裏切らずにいられる展開があるとするなら。
In that moment, a crack appeared on the hazy obsidian robe covering the
そ
man.
れは誰かが私や彼でも読み切れなかった奇跡を起こすことではなかろうか。
Indeed.
例えば、こんな風にね。
In that moment, an aberration swept across the scenery, surprising each participant of this final grand finale.
何
Although fleeting and scarcely discernible, its advent staggered the two indomitable Encarrier, Rubedo and Nigredo. The Devil's Castle trembled. For a tiny fraction of a barely perceptible moment, Welsberg, that unassailable Valhalla that held forth from the scouts of millions, did indeed feel an unprecedented tremor, an impossible notion, for if true, their Lord Commander was likely in peril.
バカなハイドリ卿
Her eternal devotion to her lord caused a great anguish to well within her, which for a creature of passion such as Elnor was impossible to ignore. Hiding the growing dread in her heart, her thoughts strayed from the battle, and instead were directed towards her master.
おのれ邪魔立てするな貴様
On the opposite end of the spectrum, Machina, whose mind remained unwilling sway to his master, attempted to resist and stopped in his tracks as a result. A brief distraction, which precipitated only a moment's faltering, and yet it was enough for Mari to comprehend the situation after being abruptly awakened by the tremors.
さて、ならば君はどうする？
The answer was a casting that ignored the rules. My right arm suddenly shot forward as if to protect me against the incoming fist of absolute death. What the hell? I hadn't done anything? Even if this had been an action caused by an unconscious reflex, it couldn't have made it in time to cover me from Machina's attack. Yet even his iron face appeared to have faltered for a second. My mind might not have caught up in time, but my arm certainly did, saving my life in the process.
俺の拳は何者であれ止められん
I knew how this would end, as well as the feelings it would birth. By the time I cried out her name, it was already too late. His fist of Deus Ex Machina crushing the blade of the guillotine, shattering it to pieces, and with my Achnander destroyed, I too would soon meet the same fate.
結果は変わらん。勝利は俺の上にある。
The somber knight threw another punch, declaring his victory to be certain. Having fluid his long charges are left Nigredo utterly intoxicated, yet I had nothing with which to capitalize on the opportunity. Why? Why would Mari do this? There was no reason for her to sacrifice her life.
いや、違うな。
The performers were still up on the stage. As ironic as it was, getting separated from Ben, a man who proved to not be her destined partner. We'll see about that. In some route, I guess, shattered her rose chase, liberating Marguerite Bro from the Covenant, thus returning her to the original state of her free soul.
そしてそうであるのなら、
The tremor that shook the Devil's Castle birthed a crack in the body of one of its architects, Mercurius, and that fissure became a gate connecting the worlds of Twilight and Wevelsburg, which meant... Oh come on, the stupid one! She could reach those on the other side. Her voice, her visage, even her touch could pass through. Kasumi was a woman who lived by instinct, and Shiro had been a shrewd man on top of
な
that.
るほど。
And precisely because they relied on intuition rather than logic to judge the events around them, the two, to whom the situation of the whole castle had been made clear, realized that this was their chance to turn the tables. That this was the miracle they had been waiting for. This would result in saving Ren from the brink of death, and Kay from mortal peril, and someone else whose defeat was imminent.
こっちに
I wouldn't follow her, to be honest. Kasumi had no time to be afraid. Leaping towards the motionless man, she stuck her hand inside this obsidian rope, grasping the hand of the girl in twilight to pull her through into this realm. What they had to do next was clear to both Kasumi and
ま
Shiro.
ず助けるなら女が先だろう。
Shiro flung Marisol to where it was needed the most. What? What? I don't get it. So, Battery is now on the verge of death and under a constant siege by the flames of Muspelheim.
いささか妨害の事態はあったが
Had carried out Eleanor's just punishment. Pain flared up in the Crimson's Knight's neck, a fitting consequence for one who had let their mind wander in the midst of a battle.
しかしそれだけだキルヒアイゼ言ったであろう貴様に私は超えられんと
The sword of the Valkyrie bit deep into Eleanor's neck, sending a fresh spurt of blood to dance freely in the air. Had it not been for the oppressive heat produced by the surrounding flames, vaporizing and offending fluids, both their uniforms would have surely been stained through thoroughly crimson.
あの私では捜査を立てないということですか。
そういうことだな魂の密度が違う
Flesh was torn, muscle rent, yet bones proved too great an obstacle for Beatrice. She lacked the power to deliver fatal blow to the Crimson
だ
Knightess.
が見事だったぞ私がハイドリヒ教より賜った兵を貴様一人単独でここまでどうしてなかな
Whoops.
よくやったものではないか
全然嬉しくありませんね。
She could not best her, nor could she save her.
あなたをこの地獄から解放することができなかった。まともに褒めてもらうのは初めてですが、こんな時に言われても嬉しくないです。捜査は本当に厳しい人。だけど、いいえ、だからこそ
Vigor returned to the waning Beatrice. It once again filled her with energy and radiance, infusing her voice with the strength it had previously lost, allowing it to soar unfeathered and full of conviction.
私はこのまま終わりません。まだ剣は折れていない。
Her soul had yet to perish. And as long as she drew breath, no matter how little time she had left, Beatrice would keep on fighting.
それこそがあなたに教わったことだから。たとえあなたを救えなくても
even if she lacked the
そ
strength.
れさえ投げてしまったら。ねえ、少佐。家族も、仲間も友達も、好きな人も救えなかった私には、昔のあなたに準ずることしか残ってない。残ってないんですよ。ビッテンブルグ少佐。だから、
好きにしろ。
Vigor and bloodlust alike drained from Eleanor's face. Instead, she resolved to console batteries in her final moments. The battle no longer mattered. In mere moments, batteries would fade away and die. Had circumstances been different, Eleanor would have bolstered the intensity of the flames and blocking batteries, bringing a swift end to the conflict. However,
まったく、このバカ娘。貴様は愚かで青臭く。だが、気高い騎士だ、キルヒアイズ。礼をもって送るしかあるまい。
Mari, where are you?
そして、エインフェリアになったなら、再び私の元に来るがいい。不満があるなら、何度でも相手をしてやろう。
The cause behind the castle's tremor still eluded Eleanor, but no further oddities occurred. It was likely nothing significant. Lord Heydrich's might was unparalleled. Nothing in his universe could harm him. Consoled by these thoughts, Eleanor's disposition lightened as she placed a hand on her moribund subordinate's head in an attempt to soothe her distress. In that moment, the Valkyr still regained the former brilliance, inching further and further into Eleanor's neck. The blade that once seemed frail as wood now took on a bone-chilling sharpness and quality. Eleanor's surprise was mirrored in batteries, as both were astounded by the events unfolding before them. Eleanor's body was strengthened by the untold legion of souls under her command, and for a simple sword to be passing through her so easily defied all reason. Batteries lacked in power, and her sword had been hollow. The wound that had begun to close reopened once more, and fresh blood gushed forth with the force of a raging torrent. The heat of the scorching inferno surrounding them was no longer sufficient to vaporize the entirety of the outpouring fluid. Rubedo was splattered in crimson, altering her... good music! Altering her appearance to now completely match her title. Eleanor grasped the blade in both hands as she tried to force it away from her body, an instinctive action which accomplished little other than slashing her hands. Her mind was aware with confusion. What had occurred? Why did her knees tremble? For the sword she was struggling to keep in check assailed her with strength enough to match the entirety of Reinhardt's legion.
若い子たちに助けられたようですね。
Drenched in the blood of her former commander, Beatrice made a smile tinged by
や
sadness.
はりあなたは尋常じゃない強さを持っていました。実際私一人ではどうあがいても勝てなかったでしょう。
This was not her
あ
victory.
なたの自負心、あなたの名誉、そしてあなたの愛情は一遍たりとも崩せなかったし、落ちてもいない。だけど私はこの結果を誇ります。カイがいて、ケイがいて、そしてあの子がいてくれて、彼の友達までもがこんな私を助けてくれた。
Oh yeah, you don't know Mari, so you might not
そ
know.
れだけで私は間違ってなかったんだと思えるから。少佐、あなたは幸せですか？あなたに危機を救ってくれる同胞はいるのですか？
Speech proved an arduous toil for Eleanor, and yet with her whatever, severed and blood gushing to her mouth, she still managed to summon forth a snarl in response. She would not allow anyone to deny the path she had walked.
私はそんなものなど求めん。私が望むのはただ一つのみ。
to serve him as his rubedo, to unclasp the claws and fangs of the beast, to become a champion worthy of his grand ambition.
ハイドリ卑怯のものであること、それのみが私の全てだ。救いなど考案、助けなど求めん。彼のそばにはべる以上、脆弱さなど許されん。なぜなら私は彼と英語共に生きたい。彼と一つになる DS イレこそ私のバルハラ。
やっと本音が出ましたね。
If she could have discerned her feelings sooner or met him under different circumstances, she may have escaped this
なん
fate.
だかんだで少佐も立派な女だったんじゃないですか。それを認めたくないものだからいつもバカにしていたんでしょ。ねえ、自分が女だと自覚するのもなかなか素敵なものじゃないですか。
A smile graced Beatrice's lips as she acquiesced the will of the soul inhabiting her sword, a soul that demanded she executed through decapitation the one standing before her. To resist was pointless.
キルヒガイズ。
Muspelheim was crumbling. The part of the cannon that contained the inferno had split, its flames licking the perimeter of the castle.
私は何度でも蘇るぞ。続きは次に会った時だ。貴様は逃さん。共に来い。
お付き合いいたしますから。
Beatrice's sword finished its journey and sent Eleanor's head soaring into the sky.
シーク入る。恩義に勝利を。ハイドリ卑怯。
Muspelheim erupted into flames. An explosion which threatened to shatter the walls of the Devil's Castle was perhaps an appropriate way for the purest of all women, one so passionate and sincere, to leave this world. And though she was immortal and eternally resurrecting any career, she still suffered a kind of death here. Kind of.
Auf Wiedersehen, Obersturmführer.
Beatrice saluted her all too time for one final time. And
さあ、行きなさい。
she gave her sword, or rather the spirit that possessed it, a gentle smile.
私よりも彼のところに行きたいのでしょ。早く、ここはもういいから。
She threw her blade in the air with a gentle swing. It began to grow faint before disappearing for good.
いい子。
Yet so miserable as well, Beatrice wished that she, too, could have found happiness in this
ごめ
world.
んなさい。私は昔から無力だから。でも、頑張ったよ。許してくれるかな。カイ。
With the grace of a snowflake, she fell to her knees. In her present state, she was hardly different from snow, prone to crumbling at the lightest of touches. Not only was Beatrice's soul tremendously worn down, she had also received a fatal wound from the flames of Muspelheim. She knew she didn't have much time
捜
left.
査はあんな人だから。私やっぱりついていくよ。大丈夫。どんなになっても、私は私でいてみせるから。だからごめんね。許してね。あなたたちは大好きだけど、もっと一緒にいたいけど、私はもともとこの時代の人間じゃない。
There's not a problem for
帰
us.
るところは、やっぱりあの日の祖国なの。
At this point, she did not even have enough strength to raise her face. Her feet and ankles had vanished, and the area around her face, too, was already growing
愛
faint.
がないと言えば嘘になるけど、なんだか少佐にあんなことを言ったせいで私もちょっとね、年がいもない。本当はもうおばあちゃんなのに恥ずかしいな。バカみたい。
However, in that moment,
君は綺麗だよ。
was it a mere figment of her imagination? The wind playing tricks on her ears? She was certain she heard a voice.
昔から変わらないと言ったろう。は
All the feelings she had kept bottled up came flowing out to the surface. Her facade, one she tried her best to maintain, crumbling to dust in mere seconds. She had herself suddenly turning back into a miserable little girl.
そうね。10年。早いけど。
She felt a lump in her throat. The words would not come. Her vision grew misty as tears began rolling down her cheeks. She tried so hard to act her age around him. She hid her worries, kept silent about her insecurities, but this was one sucker punch she couldn't foresee. Patrice felt it simply unfair.
台無しじゃない。どうしてくれるのよ。バカ。
Marriage or not, she could no longer contain herself.
ずっと言いたかったの。愛してる。
Beatrice Kirchheisen closed her eyes, allowing herself to be carried off by the wind. Her figure slowly faded away, with only a few strands of platinum blonde hair left dancing in the air behind her. In the moments that followed, silence and gloom fell upon the scorched battlefield. In the meantime, seconds before my body shattered to dust just like Mary's guillotine, the strangest of things occurred.
バルキュリアか。
The Achnenerbe of Beatrice Kirchheisen, the Azure Knight sword, suddenly plummeted from the lead cold skyline to this very arena. I reacted out of reflex. Jumped backwards, ignoring the pleas of my withering body, likely I was slightly closer to the sword than Machina. I would grasp its hilt with my bare hands and pull it out of the ground. I didn't care what that would do to me. All I knew was that this was not the place for me to die, that I couldn't let things end like this. I needed a weapon to face my enemy. Our fight was not over yet.
おのれ。
He was a second late in pursuing me. He must have felt it too. That the azure blade would prove to be his undoing, which meant I had to get it no matter what. I was the one close to the sword, but there was a big difference between jumping backwards and dashing forward, and seeing how I could no longer have time. Luck was about the only thing left for me to rely on. In the end, I was faster by a mere fraction of a second. Lightning shot through every pore of my body the moment I grasped the low sword's hilt. That was a message from Beatrice. Understood it better than the words. Shiro, Kasumi, and Mari, all three of them united to save me. And Sakura, apparently it was she who made it possible. So hold on and keep yourself alive, I'll be with you in a moment. That's some long scream. I called from the bottom of my soul. I pulled the sword from the ground and thrust it towards the incoming somber knight of iron with all my strength. By claiming a new Achnenerbe, I managed to save my soul from destruction. All that was left now.
お前が倒れる番だ、ミハエル。
Dodging his left fist, I plunged my sword into his chest, and as I did so, a name I shouldn't have known escaped my lips without warning. Clipping off his right arm disrupted the weight balance of his body, birthing a flaw in his otherwise perfect form. And that ended up deciding our battle.
納得できないか。はあ、俺も正直情けねえよ。
He was by far the stronger one, and victory was most certainly should have been his. The fact remained that despite mastering all my strength and resolve, I still suffered an ugly defeat in our duel. However,
生き残るのは俺だ。
I would be the one to keep moving forward.
幕引きにとらわれてちゃ明日が見えない。どう死ぬかより、どう生きるかを考えられなかったお前が。
His own denial of himself brought this end upon him. Even if I was tainted by the shame of defeat, I would not succumb. I would continue pressing onwards. Survival meant exactly that.
その な。
Machina started at me, his gaze replete with bewilderment. He paid no heed to the sword in his chest. In his eyes I saw confusion, hesitation, and an undeniable feeling of nostalgia. He seemed like a child who had recovered something lost in ages past.
そうか。そういえば、そうだったな。お前は、誰だ？俺を倒した男の名、聞かせてくれ。戦友。
Far in the distant past, there indeed existed someone to whom my soul and consciousness belonged. An aversion to conflict and death, as well as a pacifist nature desiring to repeat peaceful days, all those might have been a part of his craving. But that didn't matter.
は俺だ。
I'd already told him that I didn't believe him.
藤井蓮だ。他の名前なんか知らない。
Machina laughed. It might not have been the answer he wished for, but it helped him find a sort of peace
ど
nonetheless.
こまでも頑固な男だ。はあ、なるほど。だからこそ生き続けるか。その意地、貫いてみるがいい。ハイドリヒは誰にも倒せず、クラフトは出し抜けん。奴ら二人が同じ方向を向いている限りは、どうなるか、どうするか、見せてもらうぞ、カメラード。俺の望みは砕かれたが、この結末とて悪くない。俺はここで待っている。毒壺ではなく、男の名誉をかけた戦場で、何度でも、何度でも、お前は俺と戦い続ける。
あいにく。
I added more strength to my grip and rammed the sword through his artificial heart, shattering the very core of his being.
次はない。俺は勝って帰るから。
I wasn't planning to let Reinhardt or Mercurius or some other asshole kill
俺
me.
はエインフェリアになんか絶対ならない。
では、一度くらい俺の言うことを信じるんだな。
Was that some sort of hint? In case I refused to listen, he too remained silent as his body unraveled and vanished.
また会おう。俺との再戦、忘れるな。
And so the somber knight made his final farewell, his only companion, the bitter smile adorning his lips. Leaving me alone under the gaze of charred sky. I knew I wouldn't ever meet her again. Even now, I could feel her presence slowly fading from the sword. Her place was within the guillotine. She couldn't stay here for long. But Teresa's sword didn't have the capacity to sustain my soul. Remember Kain? A few Achnenerbes. I mean, it was a few people with few Achnenerbes, but it doesn't mean that one person can't actually have more than one Achnenerbe. So, only a handful of things ever went the way I wanted them to. A few things worked out, a dozen others fell apart in their wake.
くそ。何が救ってやるだ。
You will succeed at that next time, right? I swore not to acknowledge an end I didn't like. And I vowed to say Kasmin sacred, protecting her until the very end, but in exchange I lost her. I couldn't save
ふざ
Mari.
けるな。ふざけるな。ふざけるな。ふざけるんじゃねえ。
I never wished for her to sacrifice herself to save my life. Would she remain at that twilled pitch in complete solitude? Would she continue to sing to the vast nothingness around her, unable to even laugh or
俺
cry?
は
I knew I had to hurry, that every second counted. But right now I wish to honor her with a brief moment of silence. I wrap my arms around the sword and squeeze with all my strength, gritting my teeth in the face of another life I wasted. You could call it self-serving sentimentality, but if I discarded even that part of myself, I truly would become nothing but an unfeeling killing machine. We knew each other only for a short while, hardly enough time to form an unbreakable bond. That was Renfuji. That was the kind of man you've saved. I believed that casting aside my dignity and remaining true to my miserable feelings was the only way I could still express my gratitude towards her, the only way I could make amends.
どこかで見ててくれ。
The final battle would soon begin. With our combined strength, we managed to topple the battalion of 3, and now only Gold and Mercury remained.
あやつら。
I wouldn't allow them to have their way, not any longer. I'd chase after them to the ends of the earth if I needed, and I'd end them once and for
待
all.
ってろ。桜井。
I turned around and left the arena, leaving only the dry winds to shuffle about its colossal deserted ramparts. The Knight of Iron, its old master, was nowhere to be seen.
ビーダーゼン。カメラード。
Who did those words of farewell belong to? They were not mine, that much I knew.